First contact gone wrong. High Commander Vorax of the Vorsi Collective stared at the holographic projection of the blue-green world spinning slowly before him. His four eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture of contempt in his species. "This is the threat that required my battle group's presence?" he asked, mandibles clicking in irritation. A primitive world barely a century into its space age. Strategic Analyst Kezra moved forward, her exoskeleton gleaming under the bridge lights. "Appearances can be deceiving, Commander. Our long-range scans indicate unusual energy signatures inconsistent with their apparent technological level." "Inconsistent how?" Vorax demanded. "They appear to have fusion technology, quantum communications, and early gravitational manipulation capabilities, yet they still use chemical rockets for most space travel and fossil fuels for planetary energy. It's contradictory." Vorax waved a clawed appendage dismissively. "Many species develop unevenly. The Council is overcautious as always." "There's more," Kezra continued. "We've intercepted transmissions suggesting they've detected our presence despite our cloaking fields." This caught Vorax's attention. His posture stiffened, crest rising slightly. "Impossible. Our cloaking technology is beyond anything a Level 3 civilization could detect. Nevertheless, they know we're here." Vorax considered this information. The Vorsi Collective had expanded across 3 galactic arms over the last millennium, absorbing or subjugating hundreds of species. Their technological superiority was absolute. Any potential threat was eliminated before it could develop, which explained their presence in this unremarkable solar system orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. "Perhaps a test is in order," Vorax finally said. "Target their Mars outpost. Minimal force, just enough to gauge their response capabilities." "As you command," the weapons officer acknowledged. Minutes later, a single energy pulse launched from the Vorsi flagship, crossing the distance to the red planet in seconds. On the view screen, the small research facility erupted in a flash of light, leaving nothing but a smoking crater. "Target eliminated," reported the weapons officer. "Now we wait," Vorax said, settling back into his command chair. "Let's see how the primitives respond." He didn't have to wait long. Alarms blared across the bridge. "Commander, multiple energy signatures detected. They're launching from Earth and their lunar installations." "Show me," Vorax ordered, his tone still unconcerned. The view screen shifted to show hundreds of small craft emerging from hidden silos and underwater bases across Earth. These weren't the clumsy chemical rockets intelligence had reported. These vessels moved with impossible speed and precision, their hulls gleaming with a material unknown to Vorsi science. "Analysis," Vorax demanded, his confidence wavering. "Unknown propulsion system," Kezra replied, her voice strained. "No heat signature. No radiation. They appear to be folding space somehow." "Impossible. That's beyond even our capabilities." "Incoming transmission," announced the communications officer. The view screen changed to show a human female, dark-skinned with silver-streaked hair and cold eyes. She wore a simple black uniform with minimal insignia. "This is Admiral Helena Chen of the United Earth Defense Force," she said without preamble. "You have committed an act of war against humanity by destroying our Mars research facility. We are now implementing Protocol Omega in response to your unprovoked aggression." Vorax regained his composure. "I am High Commander Vorax of the Vorsi Collective. Your species has been deemed a potential threat to galactic stability. The elimination of your outpost was merely a warning. Stand down your forces and prepare for assessment and potential integration into the collective." Admiral Chen's expression didn't change. "High Commander Vorax, perhaps you misunderstood. I wasn't opening negotiations. I was informing you of what's about to happen." The transmission cut abruptly. Moments later, the bridge erupted in chaos. Multiple impacts detected across the fleet, shields failing on cruisers 3 through 7. "What?" Vorax rose from his chair. "What weapons are they using?" "Unknown, Commander. They appear to be some form of phase-shifted projectiles. They're passing directly through our shields as if they weren't there. On the tactical display, Vorax watched in disbelief as 3 of his support vessels went dark, their systems completely disabled without being destroyed. "Return fire, all batteries," he ordered. The Vorsai fleet responded, energy weapons lancing out toward the human vessels. But the smaller craft moved with impossible agility, evading the barrage with ease. "Commander, we're detecting energy buildup from their lunar installations." Before Vorax could respond, massive energy beams erupted from the moon's surface, striking 2 more Vorsai vessels. The ships didn't explode. Instead, they simply ceased functioning, drifting powerless in space. "What is happening?" Vorax demanded. "How are they doing this?" Kezra was frantically analyzing incoming data. "They're using directed EMP weapons of unprecedented power, sir. And something else, something that seems to selectively target our computer systems without damaging hardware." "Impossible." Vorax planned to claw down on his console. No Level 3 civilization could have such technology. "Incoming transmission," the communications officer announced again, his voice shaking. Admiral Chen reappeared on screen, still eerily calm despite the battle raging around her. "Hi, Commander Vorax. I suspect you're confused right now. Allow me to explain. Humanity has been aware of extraterrestrial civilizations for over a century. We detected your kind long before you found us." "That cannot be true," Vorax said. "Our stealth is impressive but not perfect," Chen interrupted. "We've been preparing for this day for generations. Everything you've seen, our primitive rockets, our reliance on fossil fuels, it was all a facade, a deliberately constructed image to appear harmless and technologically stunted." Vorax's mandibles clicked rapidly in agitation. "Why? Why hide your capabilities?" Chen's lips curved in what humans call a smile, though there was no warmth in it. "Because we studied the galaxy, Commander. We intercepted your transmissions, decoded your languages, and learned your history. We saw what happens to species the collective deems threats. So we hid in plain sight, developing our technologies in secret while maintaining the appearance of a typical developing world." Around Vorax, his bridge crew worked frantically to counter the human assault, but they were fighting an enemy they didn't understand, using weapons they'd never encountered. "You should know," Chen continued, "that what you're experiencing now represents only a fraction of our capabilities. We are disabling, not destroying your vessels. Consider this professional courtesy." "What do you want?" Vorax asked, his pride giving way to the cold reality of his situation. "You will withdraw your forces from our solar system immediately. You will acknowledge humanity's sovereignty and our right to exist without interference. And you will carry a message back to your collective. Earth is off limits." Vorax stared at the human, reassessing everything he thought he knew about this species. "And if we refuse?" Chen's expression hardened. "Then we stop being courteous, Commander. What you're experiencing now is our restraint. Push us further, and you'll discover what humans are truly capable of when threatened. We have a saying, 'You unleashed hell on us.' Now we'll show you what that really means." The transmission ended, leaving Vorax to confront an unthinkable reality. His mighty battle group, pride of the collective fleet, was being systematically disabled by a species they had dismissed as primitive. "Orders, Commander?" asked his second-in-command. Vorax stared at the tactical display, showing his crippled fleet and the swarm of human vessels surrounding them. For the first time in his long military career, he felt something unfamiliar: fear. "Prepare to withdraw," he said quietly. "All functioning vessels to form a protective screen around disabled ships. Begin recovery operations." "And the humans, sir?" Vorax watched as the human vessels maintained their distance, allowing the Vorsai to tend to their crippled ships but not retreating. "We've awakened something ancient and terrible today," Vorax said. "Something that has been watching from the shadows, learning, preparing. The collective must be warned." As the battered Vorsai fleet limped away from Earth, Vorax could not shake the memory of Admiral Chen's final words before the transmission ended. The human had not spoken with bravado or emotion, but with the simple confidence of stating an irrefutable fact. "You unleashed hell on us. Now we're going to show you what that really means." Awakening the sleeping giant. 6 months after what the Vorsai now called the Earth Incident, High Commander Vorax stood before the Collective Council, his once pristine uniform now stripped of several commendation medals. Being the bearer of catastrophic news had not benefited his career. "Let me understand this clearly, Commander," said Councillor Zith, his ancient face contorted with disbelief. "You suggest we establish diplomatic relations with these humans after their assault on our fleet?" Vorax suppressed a sigh. This was the third time he'd had to correct this particular misunderstanding. "With respect, Counselor, our fleet attacked their outpost first. Their response was defensive." "Semantics," snapped Counselor Trev, slamming a clawed appendage on the table. "We authorized a preemptive containment operation against a potentially destabilizing species. Standard procedure." "There was nothing standard about their response," Vorax countered, gesturing to the holographic display showing his crippled battle group. "They disabled, not destroyed, but disabled 17 capital ships in under an hour using technology we didn't know they possessed." The council chamber fell silent at that reminder. Councillor Mira, the oldest and generally wisest of the 7, leaned forward. "Commander, in your report, you mentioned something called Protocol Omega that the humans implemented. Elaborate." Vorax nodded, accessing his neural implant to project the relevant data. "Based on subsequent intelligence, Protocol Omega represents the full mobilization of human military and industrial capacity. Since our encounter, they have abandoned all pretense of technological limitation. Their system is now bristling with defensive installations. Their industrial output has increased by an estimated 300%. He displayed new images showing massive orbital shipyards around Earth and its moon, constructing vessels far larger than those that had confronted his fleet. "Most concerning is what they're doing beyond their solar system," Vorax continued. "They've established forward bases in previously unmapped systems. They're expanding at a rate that defies logistics as we understand them." "To what end?" asked Mira. "Their stated purpose is defensive," Vorax replied. "But their actions suggest preparation for something more extensive." Councillor Zith scoffed. "Preposterous. Even with their surprising capabilities, they are a single species from a single world. The collective spans 3 galactic arms, which makes us a larger target, not a more difficult one," Vorax countered. "Councillors, I have spent the last 6 months studying everything we know about humans. Their history is essentially an unbroken chain of warfare, interrupted by brief periods of peace, periods they used primarily to prepare for the next war." He brought up new images, historical footage recovered from intercepted human transmissions, carefully selected to demonstrate their capacity for both brutality and ingenious problem-solving under pressure. "Most concerning is their adaptability," he continued. "Humans don't fight according to established doctrines or honorable traditions. They identify weaknesses and exploit them ruthlessly. They use deception, psychological warfare, and asymmetric tactics that would be considered dishonorable by most galactic societies." "If they are so formidable," interrupted Councillor Vex, "why haven't we detected any incursions into our territory since your retreat?" Vorax had been waiting for this question. "Because they are not stupid, Counselor. Based on our intelligence, they are following a strategy from their history called speak softly and carry a big stick. They are building their forces, establishing defensive positions, and most alarmingly, forming alliances." This caused a stir among the council members. Councillor Mira narrowed her eyes. "Which species?" "The Arcturians, for one," Vorax replied, noting with satisfaction the shock that rippled through the chamber. The Arcturians were a technologically advanced, but traditionally isolationist species that had resisted collective influence for centuries. Apparently, they were impressed by the humans' defensive capabilities and disturbed by our unprovoked aggression. They have signed a mutual defense pact and are sharing technology. What else? Demanded Councillor Trev. The Proxima Coalition has opened trade negotiations. The Rigelian Confederacy has granted humans observer status in their assembly. Even the Ta Collective, whom we've been courting for decades, has expressed interest in human technological exchange. Vorax let the implications sink in before continuing. In 6 months, humans have achieved more diplomatic integration than we managed in 50 years with these species. They are positioning themselves as an alternative to collective hegemony, and species that have chafed under our influence are responding. "What do you propose, Commander?" asked Councillor Mira, her tone suggesting she already knew his answer. "Diplomatic engagement," Vorax said firmly, "immediate and sincere. We must recognize Earth's sovereignty, establish formal relations, and seek to understand them better. The alternative is watching them build a counter-alliance that could eventually rival the collective itself. Or, interjected Councillor Zith, we could assemble a proper invasion force. No tests, no warnings, just overwhelming force to eliminate this threat." Vorax shook his head. "With respect, Councillor, that would be disastrous. Humans are now prepared and vigilant. Any large-scale mobilization would be detected. And based on what we've learned of their psychology, a major attack would unite them completely." He brought up one final image, a transmission intercepted from Earth's global communication network. It showed Admiral Chen addressing what appeared to be a global assembly. "We spent centuries fighting amongst ourselves," she was saying, "but in doing so, we'd mastered the art of war in ways our attackers cannot comprehend. They gave us something we've never had before, a common enemy. Now we will show the galaxy what humanity can accomplish when unified by purpose instead of divided by borders." Vorax turned back to the council. "They are waiting for an excuse, councillors. Don't give them one." The debate raged for days, but eventually, pragmatism prevailed over pride. The collective would seek diplomatic contact with Earth. 3 weeks later, Vorax found himself once again facing Admiral Chen, this time across a negotiating table on a neutral station orbiting Saturn. The human appeared exactly as he remembered, composed, confident, and utterly unintimidated by the Vorsay delegation. "High Commander," she acknowledged with a slight inclination of her head. "I'm pleased the collective chose the path of diplomacy. The collective recognizes the unique position of humanity," Vorax replied carefully. "We seek understanding rather than conflict." Chen smiled slightly. "Understanding begins with recognition of reality, Commander. The reality is that humanity will not be subjugated, contained, or integrated into your collective. We will chart our own course among the stars." "And what course is that, Admiral?" "Your rapid militarization and alliance-building concern many within the collective." "Self-preservation," Chen replied simply. "For millennia, we fought amongst ourselves, perfecting the art of warfare while dreaming of the stars. When we finally reached space, we discovered a hostile galaxy dominated by an expansionist empire. What would you have expected us to do?" "The collective brings order and progress to those who submit," Chen interrupted. "We studied your history, Commander. We know what happens to species that resist integration. We chose a different path." Vorax couldn't argue with her assessment. The collective's methods of dealing with resistant species were rarely gentle. "What do humans want, Admiral?" "Truly." Chen considered him for a moment before answering. "To exist freely, to explore, to learn and grow without constraint, and to ensure that no power, not the Vorsay Collective or any other, ever threatens our existence again. And the alliances you're building, the military buildup, insurance policies," Chen said. "You taught us an important lesson, Commander. In this galaxy, respect comes from strength. We intend to be very well respected." The negotiations continued for weeks, eventually resulting in the Treaty of Saturn. the first formal recognition of Earth's sovereignty by the collective. Its terms were not favorable to the Vorsai, but they were acceptable given the alternative. As Vorax prepared to depart the station, Admiral Chen approached him privately. "You know, Commander, your attack might have been the best thing that ever happened to humanity." Vorax's crest rose in surprise. "How so?" "For all our history, we fought each other over resources, ideology, territory. We never truly united because we never had to. You gave us something we've needed for millennia, a reason to put aside our differences and work together." Chen gazed out at the starfield visible through the station's viewport. "In trying to contain us, you set us free. In trying to suppress our potential, you accelerated our development. The Vorsai intended to prevent a threat, but instead, you created exactly what you feared." Vorax felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. "And what happens now, Admiral?" Chen turned back to him, her expression unreadable. "Now we rebuild what was damaged, forge new connections, and explore the stars. As equals, not subjects. But make no mistake, Commander. Should the collective ever threaten Earth again, what you experienced over Mars was merely a preview. We held back significantly. Why?" Vorax couldn't help but ask. "Why show restraint when we showed none?" "Because true power isn't about destruction," Chen replied. "It's about having the capability for destruction and choosing something better. That's a lesson humanity learned through centuries of bloodshed." She extended her hand in the human gesture of farewell. "Besides, Commander, we wanted to leave you something to think about as you return to your collective. A little mystery to keep you wondering just how much more we could have done if pushed further." As Vorax's ship departed Earth's solar system, he found himself contemplating Chen's words and the strange species that had so completely upended the collective's understanding of the galaxy. They had been seeking threats to eliminate, only to discover a sleeping giant they themselves had awakened. The humans had a saying that Vorax had learned during his studies, one that seemed particularly apt now. "They unleashed hell on us, and we responded with, finally, a reason to get really nasty." The truly terrifying part was that by all indications, humanity had still been holding back. The galaxy had changed forever, and Vorax couldn't shake the feeling that the age of Vorsai dominance was coming to an end, not with a bang, but with the quiet recognition that there were now powers in the universe that even the mighty collective would be wise to fear.